Okay, this is going to be our most complicated, but maybe our most fun code. I've hooked up a variety of different kinds of conductive objects that are going to work as capacitive touch sensors. And so you could see each thing changing the light levels. And you probably can't hear the different musical tones, but let me see if we move the microphone over. And you can actually do two things at once if we wanted. All right, so how are we going to build this? We're going to build on all the things that we've learned so far about calibrating our capacitive touch sensors and printing out values. And let's see what we can do. To start, I keep inadvertently hitting the banana. Okay, so this is going to be our most complicated code first, but I'll break it down for us, and it's actually not going to be so bad. It's actually not going to be so bad because there's a lot of repeated code. So let's get started. I'll go home and we'll just basically start over. Capacitive touch piano. I'm just naming it A1 through A5 live demo. All right, we can kind of build it up over time. So the first thing that we want to do is, well, let's see. We want to have this on. Oh, let me make it a little bit bigger for you. So we'll have touch. Sorry, on button. Touch 1. And when it's down, we will have a red light. And a musical note at middle C. And so far, so good. And then we're going to have it turn black at the end. And because we're using sound, we're going to initialize the sound volume to 255. Okay, so that's what we've got so far. Now remember, we want to print out these values in real time. So for that, we're going to have a forever loop. And recall that we use a text function called join here. And we're going to print it to the console. So we want to print two things, the raw value and the threshold value, because we want to get a sense these are all different kinds of objects. They're going to all require different kinds of threshold values. And they'll perform slightly differently. So let's go back here and well, we can just search and we can get the raw value. We can add in a comma, and that's just the format that you need. And then we're going to do another touch search, and we're going to output the threshold. So now we've got it set up for A1. At least we can look at the performance of the A1 pad. So it's a good time to just like download and check in. So now I'm just visualizing A1, which happens to be our soda can. So you can see that auto threshold was set pretty high, 973. But generally that looks pretty good. I think we'll do it this way. Sorry, yeah, I guess I can go here. That's fine. Okay, so so we can duplicate this code block, but I think another thing that we probably want to do is set up our calibration. So let's do that. So on button A, what we're going to do is auto-calibrate. You can search for calibrate. And because we have so much infrastructure set up here, I like to, again, when you hit the button A for the calibration sequence, I like to give feedback to the user, and I also like to pause before we do the calibration so you can move your hands away from the object, because that will disturb the electrical field and change the capacitance values. So what does all that mean? Well, we're going to put show animation, and here we're going to put for 1 second. We could do 2 seconds, but the time that you need to press the button and then move away. And then, of course, we're going to set all the pixels to black down here. So, okay. So let's see. We have button A, then we calibrate. The other thing we're going to do is have a manual calibration when we hit button B. So we're going to copy this block, and we're going to say button B. We'll show a different sequence of lights. So this way it'll be the, I don't know, fireball theater chase, they're calling it. And rather than having it auto-calibrate, we're going to calibrate it ourselves. So let's see. Set thresholds. And I've generally found that like 900 is a reasonable value, so we're going to set it to 900. As we saw, the auto-calibration actually worked fine for the can, but it might not work for all objects, so we're just sort of setting up our infrastructure. All right, so let's, I guess I'm kind of in the way. So this is what we got. Hopefully you can see that, and it's not too small. Let's download and check in again. Okay, this is just me touching the can. So far, so good. Next, let's do A2, which is the orange, and see if we can get that to work. So again, a lot of kind of code duplication here. So now rather than, we're going to copy and paste this touch A1 block. So we'll do touch A2. We'll change the color to orange, let's say. Rather than middle C, we'll do middle D. Set all pixels, so that's good. But we've also got to add in the calibration for A1. Sorry, I don't know why that orange thing keeps popping up. I do a lot of copy and paste. Why, oh why must you do that? So I'm going to copy and paste this as well. So I'm just duplicating all of this for A2. All right, and so here's the thing. I want to also print out the A2 values. And I can't just add another console log statement here, unfortunately, because it's not going to know that that's another sequence of values. So we'll try that, but I don't think this is going to work. So we have only hooked up A1 and A2. Yeah, so see, that graph's totally broken. That's not what we want. Instead, we've got to, because what's happening is the program can't really interpret which values you're printing out, and it's combining everything into a graph, and that's not good. So we've actually got to add in touch A2 values here. The easiest way to do this is to go into the JavaScript, and but let's not do that yet. I'll just keep making this into a giant thing. So we're going to need 3. Whoa, let's move some stuff around. Let's see, I guess we can move that up here. Yeah, that's reasonable. We'll move it up here. Okay, so fine. This is going to be a giant. We're going to have to put another comma between this value. And rather than having raw A1, we're going to do raw A2. We're going to need another comma. And then we're going to need the threshold values. So that's A2. All right. So now we're going to print out 4 numbers, touch A1 value, comma, touch A1 threshold value, comma, touch A2 value, comma, touch A2 threshold value. All right, let's download this. Show console device. That looks better. And let's take a look. So now we've only hooked up A1 and A2. And I don't know if you can hear that or if you'd want to, but I'll put my microphone down there. All right, so far so good. Let's keep going. And again, it's a lot of copy and paste. So we'll do on. Now we want A3. Let's just do colors of rainbow. So red, orange, yellow. The tone will be E. We've got to add in the calibration sequence. Maybe I should just right click and hit duplicate so we don't have to see that error message. And then this is the hard part, is adding in touch A3. Ooh, so I'm going to just show you how to do this in JavaScript. Hopefully it won't mess with your mind too much if you don't know JavaScript, but it's just going to be easier to play with this block in JavaScript. So let's click on JavaScript, and here's where it's actually printing everything out. And so we can just like copy and paste this. Plus, so this is the exact code. Oh, let's see. All right, this is the exact code that we had in the blocks, but it's just the underlying JavaScript. So it's like, you know, the input touch A1 value, comma, the threshold, touch A2 value, comma, the A2 threshold. So we're going to change this to 3 and 3. And then we'll go back to the blocks, and it'll add it into this. So that worked, and it's just so much easier to add some code sometimes in JavaScript. Obviously, you could have just kept doing that same thing over and over again in MakeCode too. So let's download this. I think that's everything for touch A3, which is our banana. And this is becoming kind of big, and it moved stuff around. So where is my touch A3? Touch A3 is over there. So that's the other downside of going into JavaScript, is it will move your code around. So let's download it. Okay, so let's download it. We've got it, and let's test it out. So now the can is not actually crossing its threshold. It's a little bit difficult to associate which raw values go with which thresholds, but we're clearly not triggering it. We are on the orange, but we're not on the banana. But we expected this. That's why we set up this auto-calibration. So let's see if auto-calibration will fix it. No, we're still not able to go above the value, the threshold value. Okay, remember we also set up in here a manual calibration, which sets the threshold to 900 for everything. And we could tweak this per object if we needed to, but let's just see how that works. So I'm going to hit button B, and it'll go into that theater chase. And now let's see. Now every threshold for A1, A2, and A3 is 900. So this is actually working with the manual calibration. So that, again, demonstrates the importance of calibrating per object and per your setup. And if you do that, you're going to get great performance. It's going to be awesome. Okay, so let's just finish this off. We'll add in A4 and A5, and then we'll go on to the next lesson. So let's do it. Again, a lot of copying and pasting. We've got touch A3. Actually, yeah, so touch A3. We'll do touch A4, which is the apple. And so that's, if we're just following the rainbow, that'll be green. Maybe it's easier just to see like purple though. And then we'll do touch A5, which is currently set to a coin. And for that, we'll do blue. We also have to change the notes. So we have a 5-pitch scale here, major C scale. And we're going to add in the calibration for touch A3 and A5. And similarly, the threshold for touch A4 and touch A5. So we've now set up the auto calibration as well as the manual calibration. And remember that you might have to set these thresholds differently per object. I'm just setting them to all 900. I'm kind of in the way. I've just set them all to 900. but you could imagine configuring them per object depending on what your setup is. So let's see, I've got almost everything except for I do not have printing out A4 and A5. So I will do that in JavaScript again. So let's go down here. And add in A4 and A5, which of course will then be added in MakeCode as well. It's magic. Whoops. A4, A4, A5, A5. Let's go back to the blocks. It might look weird because it's not so good. It's not, okay. It's not horrible. I like to have all my touch stuff by each other, but it moved that giant forever block over there. So actually it's a reasonable housekeeping. And then our calibration blocks look like they're down here. So that's all fine. So let's download it. And let's play and see if the auto calibration worked again. And yes, now the graph is almost incomprehensible, but it at least tells us some things about like as I'm touching an object, you at least get to see the values change, and if they don't, then you know something is up. So this mostly works. So we might try, oh, that's purple, interesting. Okay, so let's try auto calibration. And if that does not work, which it might not work with all objects, that's okay. We can hit our manual calibration, which sets that threshold to 900. There we go. Oh, you're missing all the sound, so I'm going to bring the sound over. And like you can do chords, it's going to sound weird with these square, but awesome. So we did it. All right, we can move on to the next lesson, which is we are going to play with the CPX as an input controller to our computers, like a keyboard or a mouse.